T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, space nerds. Welcome back to the Launch Sequence podcast for an interesting and unexpectedly thick episode. Star Citizen has had a rough couple of months after the release of 4.8, which felt a little bit like a rush job, and the Ironclad and the freight elevators and all the things just kind of collapsed, and it was not fun. But there's been a lot of feedback given to CIG, and this week they came out and gave a full-throated response. It's generally their terminology. I don't like that term. But there is a massive delay of features going into Alpha 4.9. There is a big shift in how they want to take on the bugs in the game. Their focus on making sure that something or everything is working better for newcomers. It feels like another turn towards playability, much like what they said last year. So I brought in none other than Tenpoundfortytwo, editor on the channel, absolute benchmark extraordinaire, and upcoming new drama man. And we're gonna have a classic episode. We're gonna talk about all the news, what's going on with Star Citizen, what's right, what's wrong, what's feeling off, what's feeling good, and maybe what to think going into 4.9 now that there's been like this big delay and sort of restructure. Thanks for joining me though, dude. How have you been?
Yes, I'm good. Yeah, lots of drama. I'll try not to call people out in this episode and get everybody in trouble. We'll try and keep it all nice and calm. Oh dear. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's all
that
good.
was.
It's all good.
It's your stream is like I think maybe ends 2 hours before mine, possibly 1 hour before mine, and I do think that we share a lot of the same folks in common who like to chill and chat, and it's funny to hear the like which polls were on 10 pounds stream today.
Yes, we poll and we poll and we poll. Yeah. That's all we do. If you're looking for a stream where you answer polls, this is the place to be. Anyway.
There you go. If you guys like polls, either go to Poland or Tenpoundfortytwo stream, or like
That's it. Yeah.
the stop sign emporium. I don't know. So, gosh, I don't even know where to start. I kind of want to ask just how have you been doing from a Star Citizen YouTube standpoint, because you used to do a lot of benchmarking, and you've gotten to talk a little bit more about like the actual goings on of the game lately, because I think maybe the benchmarking is not quite as useful right now. You can maybe comment more on that, but then also the drama stuff. How you feeling about covering Star Citizen these days?
Oh, I mean, the drama stuff isn't like an intentional it's not like an intentional decision. We are still focused on benchmarks for like most of the videos.
Daily Mail, 10 pound Daily Mail.
But I guess the thing would be with the benchmarks is there's not really been any new hardly any new hardware to test for a while. So we've not really had there's not really been any GPUs to test, and there's very few CPUs, although the one CPU that did come out is like an £800 CPU that I promised the other day that I would test, because I think it might be quite interesting. The new double Vcache 9950 X3D2 or whatever. I am going to do it, but I just need to save some pennies first because it's so expensive. So it's not like I've abandoned benchmarking and testing the game in order to just make rage content. That's not the plan. In fact, you can have a peek. You just made a VR video. I'll give you this. Hang on.
Ooh, Tenpoundfortytwo exclusive.
We have a nice Pimax, the fancy Pimax thing. Let me tell you, this is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the one that I want to try, because I do not like the big headsets.
Yeah. I'm sure Pimax will send you that, but it's the scale of it and the size of it is so much better than the Crystal Super thing. So so no, we are still testing. Don't worry, we are still focusing on testing. But whilst the streams are a fun place to just talk about the game and run polls and talk about how the game is either not going anywhere or is going anywhere, whether Squadron 42 is actually going to come out this year or it isn't coming out. there's all sorts of fun and games to be had talking about the game and not just benchmarking it every day. But
Yep.
yeah, no, don't worry. The testing is still there.
You never run out of speculation with Star Citizen.
Yeah.
The testing is still there, but like, well, one of the things I actually had listed down here to ask you about was the PC. Like, you have suggested PCs for Star Citizen. How much are the prices on those going up nowadays?
Yeah. No, I made a video a couple of weeks ago just about if you wanted to avoid DDR5, what can you do on DDR4? So I mean, the RAM stuff makes the whole thing. It's a nightmare. It's a genuine nightmare. And genuinely for CIG, the prices of RAM and just memory and hardware and stuff is a nightmare going into Squadron 42. Like it's terrible timing because they're like, we're going to make a really high-end AAA PC game, and then nobody's going to be able to build a PC to run it. Like,
Womp womp.
yeah, it's not ideal timing. So no, definitely this is not a good time to be building PCs for Star Citizen. I think this is a time to be, can you cope with what you got? Are there some small upgrades you can do to your system that might improve your experience, but without buying RAM, basically, is the gist. But it's a disaster. Like it's not good at all. The ongoing RAM crisis is less than ideal for everybody involved.
What would you say is the best improvement somebody could make to help run Star Citizen better on their computer?
Well, without RAM, you're probably looking at, can you upgrade your CPU? I mean, CPUs can be quite expensive, but
Super
can you?
affordable.
Yeah, well, depending on what you've got. So obviously, if you're on AMD's AM4 platform on something like a 3600X or something like that, there's an upgrade path. You can upgrade to some maybe like the 5800 X3D, which has just been re-released. There's options, and we also in that video that I made, we were looking at, well, what happens actually if you were to look at the Intel 12th, 13th, 14th gen chips, and can you pick up something on the second-hand market that might be an upgrade? And the short version of that is buying 13th and 14th gen i7s and i9s is hugely risky because those chips had a load of problems with degradation. So I actually concluded that maybe a 12th gen i7 might be the best option on DDR4 that you can actually have. But yeah, CPU probably is, but an overclocking your RAM maybe is the cheapest thing you can do. If you've got RAM that you're, definitely make sure it's running at XMP or Expo on the actual profile. But then past that, can you manually tune your RAM? That probably will be the cheapest, the freest way to get more performance. But
The freest,
yeah,
yeah. Oh man,
it's not a good time. It's
what
not a
a
good time.
What a time to build PCs.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder how much the Steam frame is going to go up in cost compared to what was expected. Because one of the things that I find interesting was like when I first started talking about these Pimax headsets, they seemed so expensive. The Crystal Light kind of seemed like, you know, it was somewhat affordable, but now I'm thinking the Steam frame actually might make it look like much less of an expense in comparison. It's wild, dude. It's wild the way that everything is. I mean, even the pricing for CIG over time is something that I don't see talked about much. Is like they're probably paying a lot more to do the same things they were doing just 3 years ago, and the price to keep the alpha running is probably a lot more expensive now.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, no cost to just keep everything going. Obviously, developer machines internally for them, but also server stuff. I don't know if server costs have shot up as much as RAM costs. Let's hope not. But yeah, you'd imagine, as with all things, it all just heads upwards over time.
As they do. All roads lead up. Trickle up economy, dude. It feels great, doesn't it? Speaking of Star Citizen, let's talk about it, because there's been a pretty big announcement this week with the roadmap roundup. We obviously got to see some updates to 4.9, but the big reveal is that 4.10 is already on the roadmap, which is not usually happening ever since they stopped showing us the future. But this is because 4.10 is coming in August as basically a delayed 4.9. What are your thoughts on this whole shift that they're doing in the middle of the year?
Yeah, it's in some ways it's a dot patch, isn't it? Really, it's just that the problem is that 4.9 is so empty. It's almost that 4.9 can't be its own major patch, and so Well, it doesn't matter. The names don't really matter. I mean, obviously, it's an admission that the direction that the game is heading, as we potentially go into some sort of Squadron 42, whatever. Who knows? We can talk about that later. As we head towards something coming up, the game is in a disgraceful state, effectively, and so they clearly in the video with the SCL with Jared and Jens and Benoit, it was very clear they were trying to communicate. We know this is awful, and we don't want to repeat this. And so when Jared started talking about the idea that, well, yeah, we're going to have a look at 4.9, we're going to either delay some stuff out of it, or maybe we'll push the patch back. I think the writing on the wall at that was there at that point, and you kind of knew that they were going to do everything possible to avoid another 4.8, which might not have been technically as bad as 318 overall, but I think in terms of community sentiment around it, I think it's about as negative as the community has been, definitely since maybe 318. The way I talk about it is, obviously 318 is really bad, and maybe 4.8 wasn't as bad, but 4.8 is built on past trauma. So the past trauma of 318 is still with everybody who was there. And so when something like 4.8 happens, you're still remembering it. You're building on 14 years of like the game not happening yet. So it was a bad moment, and so you can understand why they'd want to avoid that. And so effectively we get a month of playability is what we're getting. It's not a year of playability, it's a month. But whether they can do enough in a month, we'll see. But actually, in Wave 1 PTU and also in Evocati, in fact, instancing a Siege of Orison didn't come to Wave 1. It stayed in Evocati, but then didn't come to Wave 1. It's clearly not actually quite ready. And so they probably made the right move, is ultimately the short version. I mean, what do you think? What do you think?
Well, I do want to point out to the folks who are a little younger in life, this is what a toxic relationship looks like when when there's all this baggage that's been kind of pushed behind it. It just comes back to the front whenever they do this same thing again. Yeah, I agree with you though. It's built on trauma. It's also built on like my whole thing here. And when I made a video about this, like the number one thing I wanted to push as the message was that CIG has already explained how to avoid this, and they're just not doing it. And I think, there could be different reasons for that we might get into, but it's really their own fault for advertising such a complete looking experience for people, having people, building up the hype around special events that are meant for these new people to come and see the game, making the game free for those people to come, and basically breaking down every possible barrier there is to coming and trying out your game, and then putting up the biggest possible one right after, which is the game's broken. It's a masterclass in like not succeeding, which is frustrating because this game is super successful and very novel, and it could be super impressive if it was working. And I think they probably felt that. Like, they made a bunch of money in May, but they did not make very many new accounts. And I think that this was one of those times where they were like, I think they're in a period of rebuilding the community after what happened with 4.0 and all that stuff. I do think that right now their main goal is like, we need to get people to have eyes on the game so that they realize that there is useful stuff coming in that they want to play, because that will keep them playing to see the ship sales. And they're not doing a good job of that with the state of the game. So at this point, I can understand wanting to pump the brakes, press the red button, and be like, we're halfway through the year. Funding is going really well. Squadron is doing whatever Squadron's doing. But this will be a problem long term, because people they're stopping. I mean, there's plenty of people still playing. My org is having a lot of activity every week. I see all kinds of stuff still going on, but people are not playing as much, especially not as much as last year. And I think I'm glad that they realized that. I don't understand how they couldn't have before. it almost comes off again as like there are people who are telling somebody, hey, this isn't going to go well. This isn't the plan. We should not do this. And then something happens. And now then the people finally have some kind of ammunition to point back to and be like, see, we said this wouldn't happen. Can you please do something? And then this is them kind of finally getting that little bit of push or that little bit of success with the decision maker of like, okay, let's do something big and let's fix this. But like what they need to do is whoever makes the decisions needs to listen to the developers. Who I can't imagine nobody was saying 4.8 was a bad idea.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, the patch always goes mantra will get blamed for 4.8, I suppose, is the way this will pan out, is that the thing is that all these things are responses to the past. So patch always goes from Rich Tyra is a response to the years of the game where the patch didn't always go, and sometimes we were like waiting months with nothing happening. And he came into his role as like whatever he is, PU director, and came in with this. The patches are we're gonna go. We're gonna treat this like a live service game, which is what they say it is, and the patch is just gonna go no matter what. If we have to cut stuff, that's fine. And now we're gonna have a reaction to this, where it's like, well, we are having a reaction. The reaction is well, this patch isn't gonna go because the game is in such a bad state that we can't just shove everything out. So. All of this, unfortunately, though, is the reality of where we're at with the game. We're in this reality where we're not at 1.0, where everything's in the game and the features are in, but they're trying to get us to play the game, so we buy spaceships. And so last year, they just focused on making it playable. We could argue whether that was great or not. They this year have, in some ways, tried to have both, have their cake and eat it or whatever. They've tried to have, let's put features in and make it playable and make sure everybody's buying spaceships.
Yeah.
The result has been they either don't have the bandwidth, the time, the staff, whatever. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked, and we're getting a mid-year reactionary like, well, this is rubbish. We've got to do something because massive parts of the game are non-functional. How long this lasts? Like, does anybody really believe that after this point, it's a bit like last year. They spent a whole year last year making it all playable, fixing bugs. That was great until they started putting in new features.
Yeah.
And then everything broke.
Which we said would happen at the beginning of last year.
Yeah. Everybody said it. Everybody knew. And so them doing a 4.9 stability patch, which is effectively what it is, doesn't mean that in 2 patches down the line, everything's not broken again. Like, that's just the nature of where we're at until they've chucked all the features in for 1.0. So, I mean, it's depressing to say this, but this probably is the pattern of the game over the next however many years until you believe 1.0 is out. We're going to have complete brokenness with new patches. They might then every few months decide to say, okay, well, we're going to spend some time fixing it up. And it's going to bounce probably between those two states. New features that break things and then stability stuff. CIG over the years has had many they've had many kind of patch structures or we're going to do this, we're going to do this. We're going to do quarterly patches, we're going to do monthly patches, we're going to do this. They've changed their mind all over the place. And I imagine from this scenario, we're going to have a new structure where we have a few content patches and feature patches, and then maybe we spend a month tidying stuff up. I don't know. But clearly what they were doing the start of this year wasn't working.
What I like about what you're getting at is that a lot of conversations around what CIG does are based around the actual features and that sort of immediate what is happening at the moment. But as you're saying, a lot of it is a response and has some kind of specific. Okay, I can't say it always has. They're not always playing some kind of 4D chess, but like a lot of times there is a specific motivation there. The year of playability, which oftentimes gets co-opted by people calling it the year of stability, which it's simply not. Like, you can look up the announcement that Chris Roberts made about it, and it says year of playability. Not to say that, like, not that that makes a huge difference, but they weren't focused on stability. And I think if anybody thinks that they were, you can just look at the game last year. It wasn't stable the whole year. You covered it. You covered the state of their optimizations. They weren't linear, but the playability was the important part. Doing things like the ship collision physics reworks or adding item recovery tier 0 so that people didn't lose stuff. Like that was made not because they wanted to slap some label of stability or playability on it, but because they wanted people to stop leaving the game.
Yeah.
How do you get people to stop leaving the game? They stop losing their stuff. They stop blowing up from the smallest issue. And yeah, they kind of try and fix the freight elevators. They weren't that successful, but you could tell that their focus last year was in trying to get people to play the game because they just needed funding while they focused on the more important part, which was Squadron, in their words. And then we got to this year, and you can tell that they have the same focus of playability. Like they still want people to play the game to play the game. When they bring in things like crafting, they're doing it in a way where everybody can take part. They put the blueprints in as mission rewards, and they make sure that, like, I think they're fairly easy to get right now. There's a lot of RNG in it, and because the missions are broken, they're not easy to get. But like, if the game was working, they'd be easy to get. And I think they do that because they just want people to get in, play it, unlock stuff, and stay tied in. But then at the same time, stability is not really as much of a focus because they need to put in new features. They stopped for a year, but they have to build the game. So like they're at this point where they need to figure out, how do we keep this playability push going so that we can keep people playing the game and giving us money and buying ships? How do we add features? And they already said it's a tech preview. So like, yeah, okay, you're in a tough spot, and the game, it might be hard to figure out how to do this, but I think the elephant in the room for everybody who's been paying attention is like, why are you not using the tech preview channel? And like, why are we not currently seeing the municipal works in the tech preview? We all know that that's been worked on. We know that it's probably at some kind of debugging stage, and we know it's going to come out between now and November. Look, maybe it's not at the debugging stage, but I think that then introduces another problem. If you have all your content laid out for the whole year, like, why isn't it in a state where it can be tested 2 to 3 months before it's in a state where it's in the game? And can we adjust things so that it is? Like, even if you do get it ready by September, can you then not release it to us till November so there's more time to test it and make sure it's actually working? And I don't mean don't let players see it. Keep it in the tech preview. Don't put it in the live game. Satisfactory did this for such a long time, and the only reason I can imagine CIG not doing it is a lack of resources, either money or manpower, to keep those experimental servers running. So I think that's what's hurting them.
Yeah, I mean, the instancing was in the tech preview for one patch. Is that right? If I'm remembering that correctly?
Yeah.
There was an instancing tech preview for Evocati. Then it went to Evocati. Then it came, Siege came in 4.9 Evocati. And yes, you're right. In an ideal world, we maybe should have been testing instancing for 2 months up to that point. I guess the short answer is, well, it wasn't ready. And your question is, why is this stuff not ready? Why is it so close to the line? Maybe when they project it out there, because they obviously make projections for their patches around the content they want to fit in, and they say, well, we're going to put the content here. The problem with this content compared to last year's content could in general just be dropped into the game. This year's content is reliant on features. So this Siege Horizon is reliant on instancing, and so yeah, the question is, why are they behind? Why are they so far behind? Why aren't they better at their job? No, I mean, the question is, like, is it just all based? Can we still just keep blaming Squadron? Like, everything is blamed on Squadron because that's where the focus is. We know large proportions of teams and people that we hear from occasionally say, "Oh, I'm deep in Squadron stuff," and blah blah blah. We were talking about a bit on stream today. Like, when Squadron is over, we are all hoping for some signs of like improvement in terms of the pace of development or how competent development is. That might not happen, but I think everybody in their head at least is hopeful that once Squadron is released, And again, CIG, they have not. They've said, Chris, in that letter in that interview with This Week in Video Games, the Skill Up thing, he said once we've done Squadron, we're gonna move on. We're gonna do the 1.0 push. They're not. He said that in that. He said in that interview, we're not gonna make. He didn't say, and then we're gonna do part 2 and part 3. He said after Squadron, we're gonna do 1.0 push. When they do the 1.0 push, we will see if they actually can make this sort of stuff happen. I think now you've got to imagine that CIG is like a chef in a kitchen running around. Or if you've ever played Overcooked, you've ever played Overcooked on
Oh,
the
yeah.
yeah.
Dude,
Great game.
me and my niece killed it in Overcooked.
Yeah.
Just left the meat on the ground too long.
If you've not played the game, you're like frantically running around trying to cook stuff to deliver to customers, blah, blah, blah. You're like, and if you play it as multiplayer, it's rage inducing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I imagine that's what's going on at CIG. They're just like people running around. One of them is trying to cook a burger over here. One of them is trying to chop up some tomatoes over here. They're all crashing. I think because there's just too much going on this year with, again, adding features to the game, delivering content, and developing Squadron 42. And I think it's just led to this 4.0 mess where it's just like, we can't do it all. We can't cope with it all. And so I think that's where we're at. But until Squadron is done, we've got no idea whether that will improve once Squadron's done. Who knows? Who knows?
It feels to you, though, like the tech preview dream that Chris laid out, that would like have a feature go into the ePTU, kind of sit there in the background and over the course of the next PTU cycle and then come up for that next live patch. Like that's just not working because there's just too much going on. They can't focus.
They're just too far behind. Like if instancing was only ready for a tech preview, single tech preview day, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago? And the patch in theory is supposed to come out in 2 weeks from now. That's nowhere near quick enough. Like instancing, maybe it's just instancing. Instancing was maybe just behind. The interesting thing, you mentioned the municipal works. In the May monthly report, they say, I don't want to misquote it, but they say something like, we're blocking some stuff out, ready for full production to begin. Now, that was in May, a couple of months ago. For me, with instancing for Siege being a bit of a problem for the company and they basically need an extra month, I think there's serious question marks whether the municipal works actually comes out this year in the end. One of the things they said in CIG's roadmap thing, so they said, the game's a mess, basically. We're trying to fix it. One of the things they said was, they said something like, to do this, to do 4.10 and to focus on 4.9, we're going to pause a small amount of feature work. We don't know what that means. They didn't say which features. We don't know exactly how that will pan out. But I think what we can assume is that by stopping to fix up 4.9 and do a bit of a playability, stability, however we want to put it, patch, that will have a knock-on effect on what happens in the rest of the year. And I don't think the things that CIG maybe planned at the start of the year are probably all going to come in the way that they said. So who knows how that pans out? But there's costs. There's a cost. Everybody in the community, I think, would probably agree. They kind of have to do what they're doing with 4.9. Like they have to fix up the game a bit. It's degraded. The experience is degraded too much. They need to do something.
Yeah.
But by doing that, there is a cost somewhere else. And down the line, it probably means. Does that mean they've paused work on social tools or other things that we really want? Like there's always going to be a cost somewhere, and we won't know until later on where that falls.
Very true. And it's a good point with the municipal works. This is an opportunity to recalibrate. I mean, it's funny. This is how it used to be, right? For everything, there was just always a delay. 2 weeks, 4 weeks before a patch came out. It's just how it was. But after last year, and especially last year and with this year and the way they've been delivering content, things have been a little more reliable. So it will be interesting to see what kind of knock-on effects this has. But there's also, I mean, it's certainly a cost to us. We're all going to be annoyed, right, with the features that we can see that we wish we had earlier. But there are also plenty of features that we can't see that they knew were coming, that they're probably disappointed are not going to be in the game. Now, I'm going to go to the dev tracker real quick because I think there was a message. There's been, obviously, as everybody can expect, plenty of response from the community about this change, both positive and negative. It blows my mind that people are reacting negatively to them taking the community's words and trying to fix this stuff. I do understand, wanting them to use more of like the PTU and stuff like that. But if I go back to the announcement they made on the roadmap roundup, here it is. Niku came in and actually responded to somebody who was worried about the idea that this would push a lot of features out. He said, and this is official, quote from CIG, okay. We're absolutely planning additional updates beyond Alpha 4.10, which is currently targeted for August. The features you mentioned, the new players in Nyx, the new planets in Nyx, and Genesis-related features are still coming as they continue to be developed in parallel of these additional 4 weeks. We're simply using this time frame to address the community's feedback and focus on the most impactful issues reported by players. It's one thing to say it, obviously, but like you said, there is a cost there, and they're probably going to hurt in some feature development somewhere at some point this year. But outside of that, this still does feel like a pretty big move from them in response to 4.9. First was that Star Citizen Live getting Jens and Benoit out. Now this change has features delaying. They're bringing senior leadership into the kind of bug tracking process. They say that they're focusing on quality of life and hitting the core issues that are impacting players. Instanced hangars, ATC, ship retrieval, freight elevators, quantum travel, inventory UI, log and flow, docking, star map. These are like really bad problems. I think everybody's cheering hearing them highlight this.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like, how much is this just same old CIG? Is this just going to be like a patch of a couple fixes here and then it all goes back to crap? Because they're also saying they've always been trying to go after symptoms. Now they want to go after root causes. That could also be significant. But like, how much of it, in your opinion, is just talk?
Yeah, well, this was the thing. Once the big SEL came out, they said almost all the right things, the things you might want them to say.
Yeah.
But until there's action, it is just talk. Until there's some proof that these changes they're making fix anything, then it is just talk. I mean, what I would suggest to anybody watching this is that if you're hoping that this one patch is going to solve that big list of things that they've, please don't expect that they're going to suddenly make Star Citizen perfect in 4.9. There's no way that there's no way that that's going to happen. And the reality is, what they're talking about is that there's almost an admission that the way they've been doing things hasn't really been working. Like, by just patching over the problems, they've been ignoring the actual root causes. What that really says to us is they actually are trying to begin a bit of a fundamental shift of how they're developing the game and how their practices are. This is what Benoit talked about in that big SEL. Like, they're having devs do things that actually doesn't really fit how they want to do things. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And so I suppose the thing is, if you imagine this is like a big boat, this is like they've just turned is the rudder right? I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, the rudder, yeah.
They've turned the rudder and the boat will slowly start to change direction. The chances of that kind of showing meaningful results in one single patch is so slim. Like, this is something we might see the results of in a year's time or 2 years' time. Because all they're trying to they're saying, oh, we're going to identify, all we've been doing is treating the symptoms. All they can really do in the time frame they've got before 4.9 goes is try to fix some of the bugs that are the most obvious and horrible for us to play with. There's no way in the next 2 weeks they'll have fixed all the root causes of the problems in Star Citizen. Like,
yeah.
So
for those who are listening, they even said that they've identified 100 core issues that involve these topics that we're talking about. But they've only resolved 20% of them, and and he said we don't expect to complete every fix in time for 4.9. So this is not just Dave Doom speculating. This is full on CIG's words. They're not planning on having this stuff fixed quickly.
Yeah. So the question is then, well, what happens when they introduce instancing in 4.10? You get into this tension. This is the thing that almost sums the whole community up. It's like you've got a group of people who are like, I just want the game to work better right now, and then you've got a group of people who are like, I just want them to get to finish the game and put it all in and make 1.0 happen. And you've got this constant tug of war between these two groups, shouting at each other on the spectrum. Some saying it's just an alpha, and the other one's going, you can't say that anymore. It's not okay. And
I literally see that argument plays out so much, dude.
Yeah. And that will continue to happen until 1.0, I think, realistically. But yeah, I think just know this isn't gonna. 4.9 is not the Jesus patch in the opposite direction. Like sometimes we say, oh, there's Jesus tech coming up that's going to fix everything. In the same way, the experience of 4.9 hopefully will be significantly better than 4.8, but don't expect it to play like a real game. That probably is the short way to put it.
Let's say that they do stick with this long term.
Okay.
Actually, no, let's not. Let's say that 4.9 comes out and like there are signs that they're doing this stuff. Maybe a couple things have been fixed here and there. What do you think is like good enough for the general community to be like, oh, okay, they've actually learned?
There has been times over the years where the game has been pretty playable. So the key one that people often refer to, I think, is it 3.16 or 3.16, 3.17, where we had a long chunk of time. There was a patch that was basically built on the previous patch. And so we had a good chunk of time where the game kind of just worked. I can't remember which exact patch it was, but it was one of those ones.
3.17.
Yeah, 17, okay. And so people might look back and say, well, that's the standard. We want the game to basically mostly work. In order for that scenario to happen, they had to just not really do anything to the engine or change anything or add any features. And again, it's the tension. It's like, well, we can do that, but then the game doesn't ever get to 1.0. And I don't know what the answer is. I personally would prefer. CIG can't do this because they're trying to make money and sell spaceships. I personally prefer they just spend pretty minimal time fixing up bugs today, and they just shoved everything in the game. They're not going to do that, and maybe rightly so. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, some people would say take the game offline for a year, come back when it's worth playing. Like, I don't think they should. I don't think they can do that, and I don't think they should do that. But they've sold this game as a playable game, so they can't do that.
Yeah, I think that would kill so much of their momentum.
Yeah. And Mark, how do you sell spaceships for a game you can't play? Like,
yeah,
they can't really. I mean, even if they left up, so say they made 4.9 brilliant, and then they just left it up for a year, the game isn't good enough for people to play a game that isn't constantly having new things added every couple of months. The game just isn't anywhere near that. But anyway, So I don't know what the answer is. I don't think there is an answer. This is a consequence of what CIG have done. They've sold a game that you can play now, but it's also in development. They have to live with the fact that both of those things don't really work together, and it leaves us in this place where, again, it's an alpha, it's live service, like. We're just constantly battling between those two things, and then again, until 1.0 happens, and they say this is a released game, we're proud to release. It's polished. There's minimal bugs. Who knows what that really means? But until we get to 1.0, we're going to just be arguing about this probably for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many years it takes to get to 1.0.
Nobody thought that back in 2017 when they were fighting about when 3.0 was going to come out. Oh my gosh. I'll say this, when as we've gotten so much further and further along with this process, I've realized, not even realized, just been have had shoved in my face the obvious problems that start to pop up when you have development going on this long. And this is one of them. They're just in this spot now where the game has to be able to be played. It also has to be able to be made. And the expectations are set in stone because we've been doing it for such a long time. I would 100% agree. Like, I'm always of the mindset that they should be getting features in. They should be getting to 1.0 as fast as possible. But they've gone so long that they needed to market an actual playable experience to keep making the money to build that. But now that playable experience they marketed has to be stable.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a freaking crazy situation to be in.
Yeah, I don't think you advise this to any up-and-coming game studios to do it quite like this. And I think if CIG, I'm sure there's many things CIG could have done. The thing is, the $1 billion on the website tells you that this might have been the right way to do it, but the cost of this being the way they've done it is significant as well. So
yeah, you cut the scale down 20%. You know, I've got, man, it's probably gonna have to be a whole other episode. I was just reading the monthly report, and there was a part where they're talking about Starkitect.
Yep.
Which is, there's a lot of info on Starkitect in there. I liked it. And one of the things they mentioned was how they were getting loot to spawn correctly with Starkitect, and they highlighted that they now have it where the system can automatically place loot based on the location rather than people having to come in and place specific loot boxes for that. And I had a flashback to like 2018, 2019, inside Star Citizen or around the verse when they were getting loot in for 315. I think it must have been like 2020 or 21. And they were talking about how they would be able to have the system define what things spawned in what locations because it would know what loot needed to be. And I'm like, I really hope I can get some interviews with folks and be like, so what was going on? Like, it really feels like there was a game being made. Yeah. And then at some point it was like, oh boy, none of this is going to work. And they, not none of it, but a lot of these things, it feels like, have been being remade for, and we knew things would have to be remade after server meshing, but the way they get talked about, sometimes it feels like, did you ever actually get that system running when you talked about it?
Yeah. It's tricky. The SCL episode with Benoit, there was some stuff in there that they almost half admitted that they started development in 2024. I mean, some of the stuff Jared said was like borderline. He said something like, we realized the direction we were going wasn't going to make the game that we wanted to. As in, I think you can draw a line in the sand of Todd Pappy and Rich Tyra. I think they're different versions of the PU.
Yeah.
Todd Pappy was the pre-24 version of what we're heading towards. And I think since Rich Tyra has taken over, it's the MMO-ification of the game that we often talk about. There's been a split in time of the project, and at some points Jared was like, he was almost saying, like, at points, again, I don't want to misquote him, but the sentiment was everything we did before that kind of just wasted? And the answer is probably a mix of yes and no. And I think, like you say, pre-server meshing, they built a load of stuff for a game that once server meshing comes in, had to be, I mean, server meshing, again, maybe might be the history point to actually draw the line in the sand from. Before and after server meshing, everything after server meshing required them to go back and do significant work on everything they'd already done. Let's hope that doesn't happen again with dynamic server meshing. I think the hope is that everything they're building now can work under dynamic server meshing and doesn't have to be completely rewritten again. But yeah, I think you're right. The game that was pre 4.0 was something else. and they probably wasn't anything they could do differently, because what can you do until you get server meshing working?
Well, that's the thing. See, I was under the impression I have freaking plenty of videos, streams, my own stupid face on the internet saying um, the stuff that they can build to work, like there's no point in them building things that they know they'd have to get rid of after server meshing, right? So
Yep.
the stuff that they can build, they need to build to either have some kind of minimal changes to work with server meshing or just put it off and not make it. And so it is strange to me now that we are seeing systems that I really don't feel like, it's crazy to judge this based on feelings, but I just don't see how the difference between an artist placing a loot box and an art and the game deciding what a loot box has based on where it's placed would be changed by server meshing, because that was probably based on the Rastar system, which is what eventually has led to Starkitect and is what they
Yeah.
used to place outposts before server meshing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'm the only person who didn't like run into some kind of pirate outpost and you found a freaking smoothie and pizza, you know? You're like, where are the guns?
Oh, dear me.
So
Yeah, maybe
there
it's
are
a good
some things
example.
like that. I think the flight model is probably another one that people are just like, okay, that's not like the flight model
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
made for pre-server meshing. And so
Yeah, that's fair.
as time
Uh,
goes on,
yeah.
more and more of these questions will pop up, I think.
Yes, and so I think some of it, yeah, for me to just blame server meshing for everything probably isn't fair. But for some of it is just like you said earlier, the amount of time the game has taken to be made, things that they made 10 years ago,
Outdated.
clearly are going to have to be
Yeah.
redone, aren't they? So,
They had to
but
switch
yes,
off
you're right.
freaking Flash.
Well, yeah, okay, I think they're nearly there, right? I think they nearly turned it off. Yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, you say the flight model maybe doesn't require server meshing, but then I suppose there's also things like we don't know how. We know that when they introduced server meshing, the way that you travel through quantum did affect. It was affected by transitioning between servers. So
Yeah.
how does quantum boost like work? There's questions around it, but yeah, you're right. You can't necessarily blame loot boxes in an outpost on server meshing.
Maybe you can, I'm not a
Maybe you can,
doctor,
yeah.
but I
Maybe
do
you can.
think that you're also right about there being a difference between the Tyra design and the Pappy design.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of people are very scared that the game has lost the systemic simulation feel that they were going for before, in lieu of a more player trading, player coordination focused dream, which is part of the dream, is part of the original dream, and we're supposed to work together. But I think folks want to know that there's a supply and demand economy going on, that if you're out there on a planet exploring, it's going to be mainly NPCs and not humans you're running into. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, all those sorts of things. I think it's just we've got to wait for, again, the next line in the sand. We've got to wait for Squadron. After Squadron, those things might become a bit clearer what they're actually going to do. We might actually have Chris and Rich Tyra talking about the grander vision for the game to expand on what they said about 1.0 in the presentation for 2024. I think, again, until Squadron's out, we won't know any more, I don't think, until Squadron's done.
Man, it's crazy that just builds even more anticipation for Squadron. Like the pressure building under this game's release is kind of crazy. Especially if they do delay it again. If it goes into 27 instead of this year. What are your quick, I'm gonna pick your brain on that. What are your thoughts on that?
About Squadron
Yeah.
and the delay and the event. I suppose the event's the big thing. The event suddenly comes out of nowhere, so they invite content creators to some sort of Squadron 42 3-day event. If anybody's missed this, CIG have invited a bunch of people to an event, and
Can confirm
where
it's not just content creators too.
yes, sorry, yeah, that's a good point. So there's been also posts from people saying there's some like long time backers in there. The majority of people that people have heard about have been content creators, but yes, it isn't just. Why CIG have doing all this in this way, we don't exactly know. But whereas it looked as though there was nothing happening, and like everybody's like, why does it keep saying 2026 on the website, on these letters on these newsletters that they keep releasing? What's happening? Suddenly, there's an actual thing pointing to something. We don't know exactly what it points towards still. There's no more details being released about the event, and so we're kind of guessing. When I made my big video about it, the three guesses were either this is the start of a marketing campaign, and so this kicks off something that runs into late 26, early 27, or maybe this is the end of a marketing campaign and it releases pretty soon after this event in October, and so you'd think they'd have to start doing some marketing before, like Gamescom time, late August, you'd think at the latest, to start a campaign that ends in October. Or the third option really is that this actually is a way for them to show people that the game is real, show that it is fun, hopefully. You'd hope it'd be fun. That's what CIG at least will hope. But actually, they then say, oh, we're not quite ready. And
2 more years, folks.
Well, I think the hope would be not 2 more years, but you could make an argument to say launching at any time now in 26 against GTA is foolishness. And so they could probably come up with a letter from the chairman that kind of made sense to delay it till 27. But then if they delay past like the first quarter of 27, you're then thinking, well, actually, is the game just not really done? Like,
yeah.
They're the kind of the three options. So I don't know. I think they've done stuff at Gamescom in the past. It had been a major event for them in the early days. So there's some big presentations that people might look back and think, well, that's CitizenCon, but actually it's Gamescom. So the first time they landed on Delamar, that's Gamescom. That's not CitizenCon.
Yeah.
And so maybe they do something at Gamescom, and then that leads into some marketing, and they try and sneak in before GTA. We're just guessing, but what do you think? What do you think?
What do I think sounds pointless to say. I've been very wrong so far. Well, not at all points, but it feels impossible to know what exactly is going to happen. They clearly want to celebrate Squadron. That much is clear. I don't think this is a press event. It felt like it at first, but I really don't think. I think the biggest sign to me was when Luke Stevens said that he hasn't heard anything from it. I was talking to him about, like, he's pretty into Star Citizen, even though he's made videos about it since I think 2015 or so, off and on, and probably a lot of his content has people thinking that he's fairly negative on it. He's not. I talked to him about it pretty much every couple of months. We're talking about it.
Is he just doing it for the clicks? Is he just?
He's actually, his latest video, I think, was a pretty solid, like, kind of overall view of it compared to the other stuff he's done. But he's excited for it. He wants to play it. He's interested in it. He wanted to try Siege of Orison, but it got delayed.
Okay.
And he wasn't invited.
Yeah,
Level Cap was.
Level Cap. Go on, say again.
I believe Level Cap was.
Oh, I didn't think he was, but maybe he hadn't checked his emails. I could be wrong.
Hold on, I might be. Wait. Let me not misattribute this because I might have read wrong.
He had a podcast where he said invites are going out. He didn't say, as far as I could tell, in that he'd had an invite, but I could be he may have had an update since then.
He said he got an invite.
Okay. Interesting. Him getting an invite is confusing. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's people who have been heavily involved, I think, and I don't think it's limited to content creators. I don't think it's like going to be a hardcore press event. I do think it's definitely the first chance to see Squadron 42 and play it, and probably tour the studio and meet devs and all around have like a celebration of the place and what they're doing. I also do think that There's a lot of speculation around the release date of Squadron, especially based around signs coming from CIG. And I've been trying to read those signs as well, but I realize it's not a good idea because the game is not delayed until it's delayed.
Yeah.
Like, just because it says 2026 on the bottom of the newsletter, there is no legal or financial reason that has to change if the game's delayed. I don't think there is. At least not if they've announced a delay yet.
No, it's just goodwill. They'll lose a ton of goodwill. The longer they don't delay it. Yeah, well, they are good at that. If they continually don't delay it and then they delay it, the community will be like, why did you just string us along the whole year? Why did Jared come on camera and say later this year, Squadron? Like, they might, again, have a good reason for that. But I believe that when Jared came on the start, that was a rare inside Star Citizen I think that we had this year, and said a load of list of things that are coming this year and included Squadron in that list. I don't believe he was flat lying to the community at that point. I think at that stage, I think they had an intention, whether they actually would end up doing it, I think they had an intention to release it this year. Whether that changes as the year goes on, whether GTA getting confirmed for November changes things. But I think that was in May. I think that episode was in May, and I struggle, as much as people will say, well, it's marketing and whatever, I struggle to believe that he comes on camera and flat lies to us if he knows that the game is definitely not happening. And I suppose the goodwill aspect is like, the longer these emails keep coming out and it says on the website 2026, and then they get to this event in October and then they're like, look, here's the game, it's really fun, but it's been delayed to 2027. I think people will be like, why didn't you just say that earlier? Like, what are you doing? So the signs are hard to read. It's like a tea reading a whatever, tea leaves or whatever. I don't know. It's nonsense. But them doing this event is the most significant sign that something is happening, because it's actually happening. This is like the first solid thing that's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't mean the game's coming out, but there's an actual Squadron 42 event. People will play the game. That's much more tangible than anything that's happened in the last 15 years. And so, yeah.
And it really can swing either way. This is not the same company that existed in 2016, but I think everybody should remember that. I just looked it up to confirm. Squadron 42 had a 2016 release date, Answer the Call 2016.
Yep.
It was delayed, I think, less than a month before that. I'm pretty sure it was delayed in like August or September of that year.
They've got previous. They've got previous for late delays and late. Oh, sorry, it's not happening. But that's not what the signs don't necessarily point towards that in this case. But
not trying to like disappoint and pour cold water. This is just trying to be realistic about this, because I think there's a lot still up to question for CIG. I think they're trying to push this out. I'm hoping that like this November, December was their clear, okay, we'll be good kind of release, but we might have to push it till the very last month, and then GTA is just kind of like, all right, we'll wait. That's what I think happened with Fable, and I'm hoping that's what's happening here, but nobody will know for a while.
No, an early 27 release wouldn't be shocking from where we are right now, and I think they'd get away with that. I think they'd get away with like a February, March release, and they just blame GTA, and they just say, again, they get the people to come to this event, show it off, everybody goes home wowed and amazed, look at the detail on Mark Hamill's forehead or whatever, and they come away from it and they're like, it's amazing. The community is like, oh, at least it's a real game, real people have played it, and it's coming out in February. I think that's a realistic option for what this event might be. But
all right,
unless Gamescom just comes out with a massive trailer saying here's a release date, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, I was going to say, so in that case, hypothetically, in both those cases, do you think that it's too late for them to announce a release date at Gamescom if there's a delay? And if they do that, do you think that's going to hurt the event in October? Or do you think they should just wait until the event in October to announce a release date if there's a delay because they don't want to pour cold water on it?
There's two ways to look at it, isn't there? You either delay early and the community, you pop the balloon early, and then the event itself allows people to get a bit more excitement about it, or you use the event to soften the blow of popping the event. So you do what they did basically at CitizenCon 2 years ago, where they show off this amazing trailer, the prologue, and then at the end of the ship flies into the camera, and the thing turns around and says 26 when everybody was hoping it would be 25.
The couple seconds that it sat there before flipping around and everyone's like gripping their chair.
Yeah. It was a very intense moment in the room. It was like a sharp intake of breath and then a big
a big exhale.
But the reason that worked, they got away with that because it's like, well, what they showed us is genuinely quite impressive. Everybody likes. I mean, there was issues with it, but it was spectacular enough that it worked to delay it. Whether they'd get away with that again here, I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, because the thing is, there's a lot of complicated feelings about who was and wasn't invited as well.
Yeah.
So like, if there's all kinds of ways, like they could be like, okay, you guys are playing the game at the same time we're releasing the same exact footage out to YouTube, and then that makes a little bit of a difference. If it's just videos coming from YouTubers who went and visited, and then it's like all through their lens, that brings on a different emotion. There's a lot of different ways it could go.
Yeah, I mean, they're a bit damned if they do, damned if they don't with it. Like, they, short of hiring out 2 million PCs. Let's say there's actually 2 million backers and the rest of the accounts are all alt accounts. Let's say there's 2 million backers or whatever. What are people expecting CIG to do? To like show the game off, show it to every single person who's a backer of Star Citizen. There's no good way for them to do it. They were going to have to do something like this. One theory is that this is a bit of a test event. So like you said, there's not really any like proper press coming to this or really big content creators. Although if level cap comes, that's an interesting one. But one option is that this is a test thing that they run so that they can work out how to do this event. And then actually in a few weeks later or a month later, they do something with actual games journalists and pay for them all to fly out, blah, blah, blah. There's all sorts of ways this could go. But I think the whole thing of like, oh, it's why are the content creators being invited? It's like, there wasn't anything they could do. What could they do? What could they actually do? They can't hire the whole of Manchester and then staff 2 million PCs for everybody to try at once. Yes, you
Sounds
might
like
say
exactly
just release
what a
it to
content
the
creator would say, buddy.
Well, exactly, and a paid shill, exactly. Only the shills. But I know I'm saying that from a position as somebody who's been invited, but if you think it through, there wasn't much they could do. Like there's no great alternative short of releasing the game. And clearly, in order to market the game, they have to show it to some people who will then talk about it. The point, obviously, is that the people who are going are not big enough to tell the rest of the world about it. And everybody's going generally. Yeah, go on.
No, I'm sorry. You go. Keep finishing.
Well, everybody's going basically will just show it to their followers who already play Star Citizen. And so as a marketing event, it doesn't necessarily market the game to the real wider gaming public. But again, we don't know exactly what their plan is to actually market it to the gaming public. Maybe this is for the Star Citizen community to show proof of life that the game is real and is playable, and then they can get that message out there through the Star Citizen community, content creator community. I don't know. I just think everybody's saying this. Maybe this will get me in a lot of trouble, but saying, "Oh, it's just another exclusive club." Blah blah blah. I just think like, what are they supposed to do? What are they going to do? This is normal for games. This is normal for game companies to do this sort of thing. What were you hoping they were going to do? Anyway, rant over. You can come at me in the comments. I just think people getting cross about CIG doing that. It's like, what can they do?
I have things to say about it, and I don't know if I'm ever going to say them, but it's definitely It's expected. Yeah. I don't think that it is exclusive to content creators. I do think that helps them make buzz around it. I think just like anything else that happens anywhere at any point in time, if something happens on a camera, then obviously it's more obvious that
Yeah.
it's not like the only people who have tech problems are content creators. It's just you see those people having the tech problems. The only people who got invites to this are not just the people who reported online. I think a lot of folks, even in your own chat, that week were like, "Why didn't Space Tomato get an invite?" That's only because I wasn't saying anything about it. Imagine how many other people there are that don't have a bunch of YouTube or Twitch stuff going on that aren't talking about it. So I think that's not a reliable conclusion to make. But I also think that this is for the community. Big point you made there. If this was a marketing campaign, they would have invited real journalists out, and maybe they did. But from the people that I've talked to from outside the community, who I would expect to be invited, they aren't. Honestly, I feel like you could literally just host an event and invite Jason Schreier out. Maybe Jason Schreier, Tom Henderson, have them play the game, put out a couple articles, and you're good. And I do think that this is more for the community, because at the same time, if they announced a release date, who is it really going to hurt? It's the community. Like everybody else outside of it just expects a delay. They don't care if Squadron 42 gets delayed. It's just a meme. So I think that this is mainly focused around us, the weirdos, the space nerds.
Yeah.
But we've talked a lot about Squadron. Let's wrap things up with Star Citizen, because there's actually some stuff I still want to discuss regarding 4.9 and 4.10. Specifically, was everything worth playing this month just delayed out of 4.9? Like, or is there a reason for people to play in July now?
Great question. So, in the PTU for 4.9, obviously there were the major thing was going to be Siege of Orison and instancing. There also was, as you may be aware, that CIG tends to do these events with progress bars. Have you heard about that? There is every single time they do one of these things, you get a progress bar event where you earn things towards things. And so Siege of Orison seems to have been combined with one of these reward progress events. So in the PTU, there was a load of missions for fabricating I think thrusters for the Orison platforms or something like that, and then just a bunch of fight the Nine Tails over here, like separate to Siege of Orison. So it's possible that they still run a version of that event that just doesn't include Siege of Orison. Like the Nine Tails are trying to they're whipping up trouble again. Those cheeky Nine Tails, they're trying to take everybody out, and so we have this thing where there's just a bunch of different. It's the same they've done repeatedly. It's what we've got now with Xenothreat, but it looks like it's more missions and more variety. And so it's possible that 4.9 still gets that event. It just doesn't have the Siege part.
Right.
But yes, you could argue that Siege itself 4.9 itself has nothing of major interest. If you're the sort of person who comes back to the game to play it, to see the new stuff, you're probably not going to come back. But again, they might do that event.
Instancing is like a major pillar of the game, right? That's a 1.0 feature. That's probably one of the more important additions of this year. So I could see a lot of people having been waiting for the patch where instancing comes in to try the new version of what Star Citizen's trying to do. You brought up a funny point there that like you almost got to the point where I was like, couldn't Siege of Orison just be normal repeatable missions? Like, do you think well, it is. Siege of Orison's coming in as something that can be repeated, right? It's I don't think it's a timed thing anymore. But do you think it needs all the hype and stuff, or is it more just an example of what they could do for missions?
Ooh, good question. I think I imagine CIG are desperate to make it work and make it into a thing, and therefore they want it to be worthy of hype. Like they obviously put a lot of work into it the first time round, and it never really worked. They've got it's one of those things that they've got big trailers for. It's kind of, if you look at if you think about the game, the theme park part of the game where you play the game, there's the ride over here, ride over here, ride over here, ride over here. This is another of their new roller coasters, so to speak. Like, this is a new thing that you can go and ride, do the ride, play Siege of Orison. And so from their point of view, I think they do want it to be worthy of like a trailer and worthy of everybody being excited about it. Whether that's the actual reality when it comes in and people do it once and never do it again, or a lot of people just won't want to do FPS combat. I guess the thing is that there is other parts of the game that have FPS combat in, but this, I guess, is like is it fair to say they'd want this to be the like gold standard FPS experience?
Be. Yeah, this or contested zones, I think.
Yes, and obviously contested zones are slightly different in that they're PvE VP, or whichever way around. There's PvP in there, whereas this, in theory, is just a gold standard PvE experience.
Yep.
Unless the instancing doesn't work and you get chucked in an instance with people who want to shoot you. So I don't know. It's going to depend on your play style, what you like in the game, whether this is really exciting to you or not. But again, the key thing probably, like you said, the pillar aspect of this, the thing that's important from this is, how does instancing come in? Does it work? Does it then filter into municipal works? As in, does this part of the game allow them to make this sort of content going forward? That's the actual important bit. Does instancing genuinely work?
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of questions around instancing. We could argue about where and when instances should be used and should not. Does it ruin the sandbox? All sorts of stuff, but that's probably for another time. But,
that's a whole detailed talk around when instancing should be used that we've bounced off enough of that. I really just want to see it in game before having that talk again, like to understand it. But Siege of Orison is the only place in the game where you can get urban warfare. And I think that made it very unique at first. It felt like the games that I spent a lot of time playing as a kid, stuff like Battlefield, Resistance, Fall of Man, even Halo 2, like a lot of those had these really nice feeling urban sections where you are working through streets, working through buildings, working through alleyways. You're encountering enemies that have areas locked down and you need to figure out how to get into those areas. And it was so disappointing to me that Siege of Orison, it even though you had this massive space, it still felt like the enemies were spawning in like, okay, this little bar area outside and then this building here. It didn't feel like you were fighting a war of attrition through city blocks. And I doubt that it feels like that this time, but I do wonder, with it being instanced, there's less running into people who are struggling to break through a defensive line. There's less teaming up with groups in the middle of a fight and like becoming a medic for somebody who needs it. And that kind of stuff maybe it's more rare than I would hope, but the instancing does change that. And I wonder how much they still are trying to go for that initial feeling that they kind of sold. Because you look at the release of Xenothreat, definitely not being hyped near as much, not nearly as much of a headline feature, but they stripped away a lot of what made that one so interesting. It was very mixed arms. It was FPS and ship stuff. It was transport and fighting. Do you think that we could see the same thing happen to Siege of Orison?
Well, I mean, it is different, but I think the problem, the comparison with Xenothreat kind of breaks in that Xenothreat, despite being a slideshow from a performance point of view back in the day, and whenever it's come back really in its original form, it actually as an event worked in that you had, again, multi-stage, people doing cargo, people fighting ships, working together as a big, effective at that point. A lot of the people on the server would be working together.
Yeah.
Whereas because Siege never really worked from a mission flow point of view, because again, if one person a group starts the event and runs through it, then any groups following behind them, like the missions doesn't really work or make sense because half the boss that you're trying to kill is already dead. And I would argue that Siege never really worked. And so I'm not looking in the way that I look at Xenothreat fondly, what it used to be at least, and be like, I really liked Seed of Threat in the past. I don't look back at Siege and be like, that was a great version of this event, and therefore I don't want them to change. I want them to change it because it didn't work.
Yeah.
But it is different. There's rumors of respawn beds on. One of my big complaints when you did the when I did the testing and in the Evocati testing, if you die under the test that we did, if you die, you're back to Auras in general, which is a massive journey to get back into the fight. It looks as though there's actually respawn rooms almost down elevators on the platforms, and so in theory, it's going to feel much more like, I think from what I saw, it's much more like a checkpoint. Is that you get to a certain stage, you get to the second platform and you can set your spawn on the second platform, or maybe you don't have to. We don't know if you have to set them. There's no information about that, but in theory, it's going to play much more like a single player game in some ways, but obviously with a group. But your progress is not going to be like, we don't think, shoved way back. Yeah, I don't know. We probably can't comment too much on whether it's going to be brilliant or not until we actually play it. And what we played in the PTU was a shadow, I think, of what it hopefully will be. It was some significant issues, but
I hope it's good, because that's my favorite part of this kind of game is like FPS combat, looting, adventuring, exploring, as much as that might trigger folks. Just like finding things and seeing what they do is really fun. That brings me to God, I had one more question about Siege. Nope, I lost it. All right, let's talk about the rest of 4.9, because Siege of Orison was lost. Yes, that was a big one. The other bit was Recco Battaglia as an in-person mission giver. Yeah. That was a little bit interesting because she has missions coming in that are sort of your Moby Glass standard mission that you pick up and do random things. And then she has a mission in-person storyline that they want us to use. Something that I found interesting was when they said they were delaying stuff.
That's not coming. The second bit isn't coming in 4.9. Yeah, sorry.
So something that was interesting, they said in the announcement of the delays in 4.9 was they said, we are removing all instance-based content into 4.10 in August so that the game can run smoother. And they removed Seeds of Orison, but then they also removed the physical Recco. Yeah. Now, on the monthly report, there seems to be some insinuation that her missions might be instanced. But do you think they might also be instancing the actual mission giver?
Yeah, that would be my main guess. I don't know if the missions themselves will be instanced, but I imagine the meat, if they've done motion, because the pitch, I think, have they put pictures in the monthly report of her in her little station bit on Nyx?
I think in the roadmap roundup.
Somewhere. Yeah. I suspect they, as well as testing instancing with Siege, you'd imagine testing, because again, the thing that nobody really wants is that you go up to a mission giver in the game and you just got a queue, very British, but not so good in video games. Yeah. So I assume, like lots of games, go down an elevator and move into an instance where you can get cutscenes with her. They've done all the motion capture stuff, blah, 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 and then you send you off on your mission. I would assume, that was my assumption when they started talking about this, and it lined up with the instancing stuff. And the fact that she's been pulled, like you say, suggests that's kind of what's going on. Yeah. It wasn't that, as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty certain that there was no instancing testing of her in Evocati. So we can't confirm this, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Guess they've never said it outright, but yeah, it makes the most sense. And the timing lines up super well, and then it gets delayed at the same time. It seems like that's probably going to be what happens, because it's just like, why would anybody want to stand in the bar waiting for other people to finish their freaking package conversation you already heard 10 times before?
Yeah.
What do you think of the missions that they have going on with her? Do you think that these mission giver editions that they're bringing in, I guess in August now, and also what they're doing with this first version in July, does it feel like a significant difference in what kind of missions people are running? Does it feel like a return to the to the mission givers of yore or to the Kovalix Gundo mission that we loved?
Yeah. I didn't do them. I don't actually know if anybody did them. Were these missions ever in the PT in the Evocati patch? I don't know, but
No,
as
I
in the
just read
missions
about them.
themselves,
Just some leaked stuff.
Yeah, the repeatable missions were in that we're going to get in 4.9, but the 4.10 missions I don't think we're in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here's my take on my potential guess on this is that is this part, because they started to talk about how some of the locations and things they're doing are for the 1.0 story. Is she going to be where the game sends you to do 1.0, how to learn how to mine, salvage, that stuff? As in, are these story-based content, story missions part of the 1.0 story? Because they said they're going to start to build the 1.0 story before they obviously get to 1.0.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is a section, maybe not what we're getting now, but maybe this is a test for, you get sent here for this bit, you get sent here for this bit, you get sent to Siege of Orison to do this content, you maybe get sent to Recco to learn how to salvage. I don't know. My suspicion is that whenever they're doing like fully motion captured story-based stuff, is this for something in the future? I guess, again,
You would hope.
we'll have to wait.
That's
and
what
see.
we've all been thinking. Like that whole pre 4.0 stage, we were all like, "Oh, they're doing this because afterward they're going to reset it to do this," and then it doesn't happen. So you're like, "Well, are we making the plans?"
I mean, it would make sense to plan out some of the stuff that's going to be, because the 1.0 story, in theory, in my head at least, from what they said, kind of acts as a tutorial for a new player to learn the systems.
Absolutely.
And so it kind of makes sense that you'd send somebody to Nyx to a mission giver to learn some stuff. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. So the parts of her that are coming, or the parts of her like story that are coming, are a few different missions you can take that are repeatable in Nyx. This gives you a mining mission, missions to prospect, like to just scan rocks and not have to mine them, salvage, some light investigation stuff, ship reclamation, and more. They say the mission that I've done mostly has been boarding a pirated caterpillar and like repairing the power plant and taking out the guys. Are these repeatable missions at all interesting to you compared to the stuff we've been doing in Stanton or Pyro? Is it worth people traveling to Nyx to try them out?
It's going to depend again on the sort of gameplay that you like. If you like, I mean, I don't know if blueprints are tied into this yet or anything like that, but if you're the sort of person who plays this game and runs around the game trying all the different missions, then yes. If you're the person that's like, I want to be in an org and do some player trading, obviously this is maybe not necessarily your cup of tea. As in, again, we have to acknowledge the fact that the game is made up of a whole spectrum of people, all who've got slightly different ideas of what they want this game to be. And so for some of those people, this will be the least. This might as well be staring at a wall, paint drying, whatever. Like, some people will go nowhere near this. For some people, they quite like just being able to dip into some missions, do some rep grinding stuff. Sometimes the rewards are the key thing. For me, will I do these? Having like tested a little bit on the PTU, I don't think I'll do them in 4.9 live. I don't think they're not spectacular enough in any way for me to be like, this is a foot. If you were to do a tier list of like, what are the 5 most interesting things that I could do in Star Citizen if I just turned the game on in a random day, for me personally, this wouldn't be in that top 5. So but other people will feel differently.
I think there are 2 things I've discovered so far in these missions that maybe would be worth doing them for. One is if you like shipboarding missions. They're not really anywhere else in the game. The 890 jump mission is the only one. And for some reason, this is the first time they've brought it back. I hope they expand on that. The second is the mining missions she gives are actual mining missions where she just wants you to go to a place and scoop up an asteroid, as opposed to like other mining missions where like, go to this place, get this stuff, and then refine it and then turn it in. Okay. It's you're not a miner at that point. You're a freaking tycoonist. So I do think that it's at least a start of those kind of more simple missions getting some footing, but Dude, as far as rewards go, or like the interest of the storytelling or anything, you're absolutely right. These just don't go. They don't do much.
Yeah. Yeah. The game requires basic missions like this. It requires more story based. It requires it all. And again, it's a bit like I guess if we say it's like a puzzle, a big puzzle that we're looking at, 1,000-piece puzzle. These are some puzzle pieces that need to go in. On their own, they don't look spectacular in any sense.
Yeah.
Hopefully when they're all joined up to the area around it, and then it starts to make more sense. But yeah, on their own, this is not the Mona Lisa. Let's put it like that.
Agreed. So besides the Recco Battaglia missions, support the miners mission pack, which I think is funny, support the miners, but like you have these combat missions, of course. There is also a couple other things coming to 4.9 in July. We've got the new hit markers, which are actually kind of nice quality of life change. We've got combat clothing, new hairstyles, probably the headline, ordnance cargo holder. These are the new kind of cages that get put around missions and missiles and stuff. The new bullpup rifle, the CQ-7, some ship flyby audio has been added to several ships. Valacar behavior updates have occurred. That's really what they have listed right now for 4.9. So we have lost instancing. We've lost the physical mission giver. We've lost the super heavy armor, super heavy weapon, and the Nine Tails armor update along with Siege of Orison. All is moving to 4.10 in August. So is there anything else in 4.9 that has your interest from that list?
Nope. The short answer is no. I think this is going to be the most boring, but this is what they needed to do, as we said earlier. It's probably going to be the least interesting patch they've released in years. But if it means that the patch, it means the game works, and they can build off a slightly better working game for the rest of the year, it's kind of important. But no, I imagine, like we said at the start about polls, I think we'll be doing more polls about the game than playing the game over the next month, I think, on my stream, because I think it's very uninspiring from there's new fun stuff to try out side of things.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying that.
Go ahead.
No, I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do. It's the right thing to do. I think clearly not everybody, most people would agree. But again, trade-offs. Yeah. It's the right thing to do, but actually it's still going to be quite boring.
People are calling it 4.8.4, I was going to say.
Yeah, that's fair.
How about, do you think that it's going to be a problem 4.10 coming out in August? Like, do you think they've just pushed the problem off more, or will this make an actual difference?
I guess the question is, does 4 extra weeks to work on instancing and the siege flow and mission and everything and the other things they're adding, is that helpful?
Yeah. And I guess the bug fixing they're saying they're doing in that time period too.
Yeah. Do those things actually come together to mean that 4.10 actually, I mean, the worst case scenario is they delay it, 4.10 comes out, and it's still completely broken. The hope would be that they won't do that. I mean, in reality, we're going to be hoping that 4.10 now goes to Evocati really quite soon, like almost as soon as 4.9 will go. They said mid-July. I think that's what they said. You'd assume that the following Monday, 4.10 goes into Evocati, then into PTU, and can get properly tested thoroughly.
Heck of a schedule.
Well, they're going to be busy, but that's what you'd hope, because there's no point doing all this if instancing, that's not fair. There's no point doing it. If they fix the general state of the game, that's good. But if Siege comes in and instancing comes in and is completely broken, well, the community will just be up in arms about that. It's like, what's wrong with you? You delayed this for a whole month and it's still broken. Like, they have to. The hope is that it comes in a pretty decent state.
I mean, yeah. Like, you remember how many times Pyro was delayed and then still came out broken?
Well, yeah. I mean, I played through it. I played through the first island of Siege. I've done it, so I know that it is in the game. I can confirm you can You had to make sure you jumped over the ramp from the from the shuttle thing, because there was no collision. So if you didn't jump over it, you just fall through to the rest of Horizon, which I
Very
did
good.
once. That was in the patch notes, so I should have known that one. Anyway, but there was issues with it, but I have been instanced. It is functioning. It's just very rough. There's a load of VFX going around as you enter the platforms. It looks like a fireworks display. It's supposed to look like a battle. There's tons of stuff. It clearly wasn't ready when I played it in Evocati. And the hope is another month means that it is ready. We will see.
We will see. We will see. All I know is that I'm not going to be experiencing it. That is probably going to be my least played update in a while, because my little baby son will be arriving. We are week 30, going on to week 33. So like we have less than 2 months. Due date is August 20th. So like probably in the next 40 days, 50 days.
I mean, you say this will be the least played patch, but potentially, depending on how he sleeps, you could well get like some sort of holding sling thing on the front. You've got a standing desk. You could be like jiggling him to sleep whilst gaming at the same time. You could be like, that could be your life.
That's true. That's true. I feel like that's going to be my September when he's finally calmed down and I get to get back to we'll see. But it's an interesting time for me to be seeing this many updates, and I'll definitely have some weird coverage on it over the next couple of months. But God, I do hope that whatever it is that comes out is actually functional, because they need it. They need it after this. They've just about run out, I think, as much as they can of the goodwill of the current crowd. Because, like I've been saying, they've been marketing to a different group, and that's what we're seeing here is the reaction to that, in my opinion. Yeah. To wrap things up, I want to talk about what we expect for the rest of the year. This obviously puts a little bit of a shakeup in the schedule. We've kind of discussed the Squadron 42 stuff, which is also just a huge freaking question mark that changes everything. Yeah. So I want to hear kind of your, let's say, semi-optimistic take on what Star Citizen might happen. What might happen in Star Citizen the rest of the year, and what Star Citizen players have to look forward to instead of Squadron players.
Okay, right. Well, I didn't actually see this question when you sent the question, but fortunately for everybody, on the stream this morning, we literally planned out the rest of the year and what the options are with lots of polls. So
perfect.
We've got it. I've got everything.
Don't forget, I also have to get your hot take prediction for the end. So leave something special for us.
Well, this could be that, but I'll give it away now. They've mentioned the Apex Valakar all year in the monthly reports. Yeah. I think that is a candidate for a patch at some point. When we did this earlier on the patch on the stream today, I don't think, like I said earlier, I don't think the municipal works is that likely to come in 4.11. I think it's maybe not even that likely to come in 4.12. And so, again, I'm not assuming that the Planet Tech is going to come in September in 4.11. Hopefully that'll come in the November patch. But my guess would be maybe we get the original Apex Valakar battle that they showed off at CitizenCon, not the one where it's irradiated and in the storm and therefore there's no ships. They're clearly working on it. There's all sorts of stuff in every month about it. So that's, I think, is coming at some stage. Obviously, the big thing that everybody's looking forward to is the Planet Tech. Obviously, it could come in September. My guess would be it maybe is more likely to come in the 4.12 patch, the November patch. Yeah. It comes with Planet Tech, obviously the Genesis stuff, the Genesis planet side stuff at least. And then Starkitech also comes as part of that, the ability for them to procedurally effectively create locations all over a planet. I keep saying this. I don't understand. There's no law reason why Nyx 1 would be covered in settlements, though, because Nyx 1 is just been terraformed. And so we're suddenly expected to believe that hundreds, if not thousands, of locations have appeared on Nyx 1. Doesn't really make any sense law-wise. I guess maybe you just put your hands up and say, who cares? Like, it doesn't really matter.
They're quick builders.
They're quick builders. Maybe that's it. There's talk in the monthly reports about social tools. the fear is that social tools is one of the features, like they mentioned, that may have been paused. They may have paused work on in order to fix up the game. But the chat app has been reworked according to the roadmap, and so that is maybe not that exciting, but that might be our first actual update to social tools. We're kind of still expecting tier 1 loadout recovery, was what we called it earlier, like the idea that we can now have ship insurance, but we're still actually from a player point of view, we're still on item recovery tier 0, where you wake up in your bed with all your stuff. So we were expecting at some stage maybe that tier 1 loadout recovery comes.
That there's been no comments on that.
Yes, I mean there's mentions of item recovery stuff in the monthly report, but there's nothing solid, and it's been a long time since that first Xylo post laying out what the plans are. It's lasted, I think, longer than anybody thought it would.
Yeah, definitely longer, like disappointingly long. Longer than I told people I thought it would last. Longer than I expected that it would, or that they probably wanted it to.
Yeah. I mean, that sums up the whole project, but yes, that is. Yeah. Other things, the mission system has had some work to make it work with Star Architect. So there's hope maybe that when Planet Tech V5 comes and Star Architect comes, that there's a bit of a mission app rework or mission rework. And there was also mention of job boards, physical job boards at Star Architect locations that you go up to and get local jobs, which is a bit of a shift. So all that stuff could come at some point. And then in our stream earlier today, we looked at the things that people thought might come, but actually probably are less likely to. I think the municipal works is, maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but they only started full production in fact, I think they were preparing to start full production in May, blocking it out, making it playable. I think with the delays to instancing and Siege, that there's a decent chance that gets pushed out of 26. Some people were hopeful for Castra to come as in the same way that Nyx came. Like, I think that's dead. I think the idea of that happening is completely dead. I think that might be.
They said everything that was coming last year, right?
Yeah, and Castra wasn't one of those things.
Yeah. I'm surprised by people still holding on to that.
No, I think people are. I think some people love the idea of Castra, but we speculated earlier that is there any proof in anything they've mentioned that they've even done any work on Castra since showing us that pre-production work? I don't know if there is.
No.
I mean, Starware is also all over the monthly reports. So Starware is the sort of thing. So that's being able to mix and match outfits and everything that could come. Again, there wasn't much confidence for that.
You know, the combat clothing, I think there have been a few signs of things that make me think, okay, they're making good progress on Starware. The flight suits is a good one. We saw there was a helmet that came out that had FPS scanning, I think. You can see the sort of bits where they were customizing things a little bit, and now we're getting the combat clothing coming out in 4.9. So that one does feel like a really good close at hand thing.
Yeah, that's not impossible. And then there's more crazy things. I mean, the full rollout of the new transport system, we still haven't, in the current version of the game, I think we've got the new transport system in Grimhex. I think in the PTU patch that was out last night, potentially it's been put in a few different locations, but still the majority of the live version of the game has the old transit system. So that's something that could happen this year, maybe. And then you're getting into crazy things like, are we expecting ship refining to appear with the Galaxy? Probably not, I don't think. The new flight model.
Gosh, I was really hoping after Torsten talked about refining that we might see it this year.
It's not impossible. They've mentioned a few. So, I mean, the bizarrely mentioned hacking at one point, didn't they? There's a few things that maybe just might appear, but I think if the project has taught us anything over this time, is that probably best not to get your hopes up. But something random might appear. But yeah, I don't know about ship refining. The Expanse you'd expect to come at some point. You'd think that'd be on the roadmap for one of the patches at some stage. But again, I don't know. No
mention of it in the monthly report.
No, so yeah, probably not.
Right.
The new flight model stuff probably isn't happening this year, I don't think. And then you get into crazy things like base building definitely probably isn't happening this year. We watched a little clip of an interview Chris did when he was in Australia in February, talking about the idea of getting servers of 1,000 this year, and then the next sentence was about dynamic meshing bringing in 1,000, 2,000 players. And so there was a sense where Chris might have been hoping for some version of quasi dynamic meshing or dynamic meshing this year. I think the reality is that's probably not happening. Especially, again, the instancing stuff will probably have delayed work on that side of things. So I'm not, some people may have been expecting like a tech preview at the end of the year where we had dynamic meshing, quasi dynamic meshing. I think that's unlikely. I mean, the random,
that is, Benoit last year said, well, kind of insinuated to folks that he felt it was a little bit easier. Do you think that got away from them? Do you think it's still going to plan for him?
I was hoping that when we had the Benoit episode with Jens and Jared, I was hoping that they might film us, because that was just focused on what on earth's gone wrong with 4.8. I was hoping that we might get a secondary one that they might have filmed whilst he was in the UK, Benoit, where they might have talked about what's going on with instancing, what's going on, like an update of what's happening.
Yeah.
We've had nothing official for quasi-dynamic meshing since he mentioned it in February, Benoit, in that original SCL. So we're just waiting for an update, really.
Yeah.
We don't know, but I would suggest the chances of it happening in this year are very small at this point. This is quite depressing, isn't it?
I think it's called nil
maybe.
over there.
Maybe zero. Maybe we're at zero. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. FPS radar and scanning. Let's move on from that.
Welcome to your lovely therapeutic session, everybody, with Tenpoundfortytwo.
Yeah. I'm sure this happened last time, didn't it? Didn't we get? No, last time was spicy. This
nice
is just
reality
depressing.
check.
FPS radar and scanning, I don't think will come in until Squadron is done. But if you're really hopeful, you never know. And then after that,
I mean, FPS radar and scanning, I've been thinking might happen for the last 3 years. But I do think that every time they're planning on releasing it, they realize something else in the game doesn't like react or function with it or something, and the whole game just has to work for it. So they don't. I don't know, man.
My expectation with that one would be it's clearly key to Squadron and in Squadron, like being able to scan your environment, everything.
Yeah.
If there's anybody working on it, they're going to be making sure it works perfectly in Squadron. And so I don't expect it to be in the P. I mean,
stop it with your logic, dude. Stop.
Say again?
Stop with the logic. Cut it out.
Okay, here's some crazy logic. Maybe Terra will come in 29.
Oh my God, bro. Hey, you know what? Terra in 29?
When we polled everybody, the actual guess for 1.0 was 2030. I personally think that still might be optimistic. Hope, we were running under the assumption that once Squadron is done, the floodgates open and everything gets fixed, and the whole world is all fine and happy because the whole company can focus on Star Citizen. Whether that's actually reality, we will have to see, which we keep saying. But yeah, I think that the best thing we can hope for the rest of the year is that Planet Tech V5 wows us and keeps us excited for months. And if by some crazy chance Squadron also comes out somehow in October or December, I think we'll forget about the fact that the rest of the stuff is missing. I think the way this game works, the way the cycle of this game works, it's peaks and troughs, it's hype and it's disappointment.
Yeah.
CIG, all they have to do is drop something that's exciting enough that distracts us from the fact that the game still isn't really where anybody wants it to be. Planet Tech 100% will do that. If Nix 1 comes out looking anything like the showcase they did, it's going to be like jaw-droppingly beautiful. And so that will do a lot of heavy lifting for the hype machine going into things like IAE, sell spaceships and stuff like that. We'll talk about, it's all to do about selling spaceships. If they can drop in November in 412, Planet Tech and Stark Tech, I think they'll be fine going through to the end of the year, and then who knows what happens with Squadron.
Yeah. I think best case scenario, Squadron actually does get delayed until Q1 27. This might disappoint.
You said best case scenario there. That's not what I wanted you to say. Go on, carry on.
No, I imagine not for most people. I think that if they are at the point where they're not confident enough to announce an actual date for 26 right now, then they should just push it. I think there's way too much riding on the release of this game, way more than there was 6 years ago, way more than there was 10 years ago. Like, it is paramount that Squadron is a success now because they have private investors, they have put options, they have a game that's not functional yet that they need to keep funding with a pretty decent amount of devs in different studios around the world. And like, I just created, you edited a lot of that video I made about Crytek, and like a lot of those same signs are there. You need to be careful about how much money you have available to you to keep something like this going, especially as like hardware prices are increasing, inflation is increasing, people are finding it harder to spend more time doing the things they love, spending time on the money on the things they love. Like, there are a lot of variables here that make me feel like if Squadron's going to release, it needs to be good. And if they don't have a release date yet, if they're feeling insecure about it, then I would just prefer they push it, give themselves a few more months, take that extra like bit of time that you can now advertise for Squadron without the raised prices of the holiday season and GTA also bumping up the prices, and release, in February. Then we can call freaking 27 the year of space games. We've got Exodus coming out, Osiris Reborn is coming out, Falling Frontier.
When do those games come out though?
Early 27.
It's
going to be competition. Yeah, but I'd rather go up against that. I mean, advertising wise, you're going to be spending less, and you're just going to have more avenues to go around than in the holiday season, in my opinion. But that, I think that would be a good thing. Not the best thing. The best thing, obviously, is like it releases and it does great in October or whatever, but it's feeling less and less likely, in my opinion. So I think that would be great. I think getting the Planet Tech V5 in November would be great. If that comes with Starkitect and it has locations, actual functional AI, mission boards, and like things that you can do on that planet that work, then I do think that you're right. That's going to be enough to convince people. But I also feel like we still need to see some kind of major shift with gameplay in the second half of the year, whether it be getting everything up to item recovery tier 1, whether it mean getting refining gameplay in to kind of tweak how crafting is working a little bit, whether it means suit lockers. I don't know. Suit lockers are iffy there. I think we need a pretty big piece of gameplay to add into that like sort of chain of gameplay that makes the game right now. Crafting, adventuring, killing folks and taking their stuff and looting, mining, salvaging is a little disconnected, but like all of these things can kind of add into that same productive progress players can make. And I think we need something else in there for the second half of the year too.
Yeah. No, nothing you said there is silly. I mean, I think the problem the CRG have got maybe in terms of community sentiment is that last year for a lot of people, it felt like and as Jared keeps saying, it's the best year ever of Star Citizen last year, whatever. And you could definitely argue whether that's really true or not, whatever. But they pumped out content. The game generally was better, and the bar was set quite high going into this year. And so maybe it feels like the drop off from last year is like significant with 4.8. But there's been many, many years of this game that have probably been a lot worse than what we've experienced so far. And so if they can just get in the one big ticket thing, the Planet Tech V5 with the Starkitect stuff, that potentially elevates this year above most years. Maybe not last year, but the bar, and people's memory, as we always talk about, people's memory for the rubbish that happened a few weeks. Like, in general, people now just disappointed with what's going on. But a few weeks ago, everybody was livid about the state of the Ironclad. Like, people move on fairly quickly, and Planet Tech V5 will shuffle everybody away from being negative to being like, oh, I can't believe it, I can now take screenshots for the rest of my life. Like, they know what they're doing, they know what they have, and they know that one big item like this can change the whole feeling of the year.
Yeah.
And especially if there's some positive-ish news about Squadron. I'm not too worried about the rest of the year. Normally this period now, between now and CitizenCon, is like slump central. The game's dead.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, what's going on? I don't think this is anything unusual really this year, but a lot of it does depend on what happens with Squadron still.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think every time I need to do like a is Star Citizen dying video, it's around late July, early August.
Yeah.
But there is that added pressure that I think this long-term marketing they've done for a game that's supposed to play better than they've probably advertised it as playing in the past is changing people's expectations along with what happened last year.
Yeah.
All right. I want to hear your hot take prediction then. We got your normal stuff. Now let's hear what we can come back and drag you in for your next time. Actually, wait. First,
oh no,
we need to see what your previous prediction was. Let's see.
You keep, whenever we keep doing this, you keep bringing up ones that I made like a year and a half ago. You got to give me the last one. None of the ones from like 2024 or anything like that.
All right.
What was the last one?
What were you saying last year?
Oh, not last year, but I'm sure I said, oh, base, maybe some sort of absolute buffoon. I'm sure I said, well, maybe by the end of the year, maybe there'll be a basic version of base building or something like that. Oh dear, what was that?
It is great to have this moment right after we just had that whole conversation. Can I list out your long terms? It's gonna
go on.
You were right. You did have base building on there.
Yeah.
You had Castra added in 2026, similar to Nick's. That one I think was before the year.
When I said that wasn't a crazy idea. Maybe like Nick's, it would come in really empty, but clearly that's not happening at this point.
Yeah, I think none of these were crazy ideas when you say them, but CIG unfortunately can shift things pretty quickly, which is why we do these now.
Yeah, it's fun.
You had a Squadron prediction for Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, that failed.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It all looked like it was going to happen, but then it didn't.
It would have been perfect. It really would have made sense. And I think that was my biggest disappointment of that whole period of time was like, you passed $1 billion, you released the last concept, you're doing all this cool stuff right as you hit Invictus Week.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make sense then? Just, but nah, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. May 2nd. So this is your last prediction I have. Okay. Says Squadron 42 gets some kind of award at the end of the year. What?
I think, didn't we say it would get some sort of like audio? It would win for like the score or something. If it comes up this year.
Yeah.
I made the bar lower. It wouldn't win Game of the Year, but it would get some sort of technical award because I think it probably will. I think that's probably still quite likely.
See, now this guy goes real hot on his takes. I like it.
I've got a good one now. I've just thought of a good one.
All right.
For today. Here we go. So obviously, the hot news in the last few weeks in the community has been Ollie43 has been hired as a new content manager. My hot take will be Ollie43 is able to make somehow, I don't know why I'm putting so much pressure on the guy. He can make the video content great again. Somehow, the hiring of Ollie will mean that we get regular video content and we can all just that's the pressure. The pressure is on Ollie to fix the video content that basically is dried up. I think at the start of last year or the start of this year, Jared said we're going to try to get more video content back, something weekly.
Mm-hmm.
They failed at that.
Mm-hmm.
They have not. We've had 3 weeks, I think, now without any video content. So I think the hiring of Ollie is a chance. And I know it's all been controversial. People have had the thing. let's give the guy a chance.
Has it
Let's
been
see
controversial?
if.
Oh, never mind.
Huh?
We won't
Oh,
get
yeah,
into
yeah.
that.
I think we've got to hope that them adding people to help to work around Jared and to help him means that he can actually get some more content out for us. That's my hot take. So this time, if we come back in at the end of the year or whenever we do the next one of these, I am hoping that we're all sitting there saying, "Oh, didn't the video content improve?" And if that's the case, we will give Ollie a very polite British round of applause and say, "Thank you very much for your service," because it definitely needs a shot in the arm from somewhere. Because it seems as though if Jared is too busy, I made a whole silly video about what's going on, why this is happening. But if one of the options was that he's just overworked, he's got too many things to do, he's got so much on his plate, who knows? Bringing people in to help him seems sensible. So hopefully, in a few months, we'll all be singing the praises of the video content from CIG.
Man, that's wow. I think that one might be wilder than the award.
You've not got confidence then that you've not got just at least see a bit of an uptick in video content from CIG. No is the answer.
I don't think CIG has a big enough whale to make that difference.
Interesting. Okay.
Meaning, I don't think they care to put funding towards it, really. Like somebody, Maverick asked in the supporter chat here. By the way, folks, if you're a supporter on Twitch, YouTube, or Patreon, you can come and join these podcasts live and ask us questions right here. But he mentioned, where is the subscription money going? And I think that's probably the biggest thing is like, they're getting more subscription money than they were getting back when we were getting nice weekly episodes. And I know they don't want to pull the devs away from their work and take their time, but like, then the question is, where is that money going? And
well, maybe it's paying for Ollie's job. I mean, as a genuine thing, maybe.
Dude, there's a lot of freaking subs. He's going to be getting paid nice.
Well, maybe they can hire some more people. But yeah, hiring somebody, regardless of who it is, hiring somebody to help Jared, which seems to be the role, seems to be a sensible decision. And who knows where the funding? Maybe it has come from the subs, or maybe it's coming from the main ship sale pot. Who knows? But there's at least a sign, at least some sign that they're they're trying. Yeah. Whether, I mean, it's a lot. Again, this is sort of obviously joking. I'm not putting the pressure on. If nothing improves, we can't all blame Ollie. But I'm excited to see if it's possible to get back to where we were. I do wonder why.
Imagine if we got sprint reports again.
Well, yeah. The thing is, it's not. We as a community could easily answer what do we want to see. It's whether they will do them. And I don't really fully understand why they stopped pumping out the content as much as they can. The only real obvious answer is, oh, go on.
We ask where it is.
Well, yeah, we could. Yeah. I mean, the thing that they changed is they started doing the behind the ship stuff. And so a lot of the video content turned into advertising rather than insight into the development process. So does somebody else coming in to help out improve that? Who knows? But
yeah, I think I want to hear more of your deep thoughts on kind of the process they went through for obviously hiring Ollie, the drama and stuff. But we'll save that for after the podcast with supporters. A little drama talk. That'll be a fun one to come back to in a couple of months, man. And
I'm happier doing that than saying Castra. Yeah,
I'm gonna write you down for Terra and 29 as well.
No, that was me. That was a voted for poll. That wasn't my decision.
Man of the people, voice of the people. Thank you so much for joining me for this one, 10 Pound. It's always a great talk. I think we get into the best topics and could probably keep going on this for hours, but you have a life to get to, and I have a stream to do, so we're going to have to wrap things up here at the nice and lovely 2-hour mark, just like last time we went super long with the Astropub. Folks, if you're out here, let us know. Did you enjoy the long show? Did it keep you entertained? Did it answer your questions or did it bring new ones? I want to see in the comments below. What's the most interesting thing on your minds right now? What's got you questioning Star Citizen? Because these episodes have been pretty fun. 10 Pound, thank you so much for joining me again for this show, dude. You want to let folks know where they can find your content and what kind of content that is?
Yeah, Tenpoundfortytwo on YouTube and Tenpoundfortytwo on Twitch now, 9 a.m. UK on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for streaming. And the videos, the content, as we said at the start, mostly testing the game, but then also occasionally giving thoughts on the game and creating rage content to upset people. That's not really the intent, but the last I'm going to blame it on the heat wave in the UK. I think I was dehydrated, I lost my mind, and we just went mad. But normally it's all very pleasant and fun. So
Wait, what
yeah.
was the last one? Is that the one about the Squadron event?
Oh, that was the Squadron event where I was basically saying this. Yeah, let's leave it.
You're answering the same question over. No, we'll talk about it after after the pod. Yeah, it's good content, guys. I would definitely go and check it out. And if you enjoy that, please subscribe. Toss a subscription to your Witcher. And thank you so much for checking out this podcast, guys. If you're on YouTube and you enjoyed this, consider subscribing. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Pocket Cast is what I use for your commutes, for your work, for the time when you're going and getting your pedicure and you need something to listen to because you don't want to hear about. You have a boyfriend? No? Good. It's a good time, and I think it's a solid podcast for Star Citizen listeners. Throw a review if you're interested on the audio side. We appreciate you coming and checking this out. I'll see you all in the next one next week.